we're back, and if you're joining us right now, we're coming into our final conversation for the morning, all about sustainability and the Belize Fund for the Sustainable Future. Joining us via Zoom, we have none other, no stranger to the show, Dr. Leandra Cho-Ricketts, the Executive Director for the Belize Fund for Sustainable Future, and Mr. Josue Olivas, who is the project manager. Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having us.
Thank you for being here. So let's jump right into it. We're the Belize Fund for Sustainable Future. It is a newly developed program. Dr. Ricketts, can you talk to us? Can you give us a brief insight or an overview, if you will, about the Belize Fund for Sustainable Future, and why do we need this?
Okay, sure. So the Belize Fund for a Sustainable Future, I think earlier this year, viewers, the public may have heard about it when we were getting the name selected. There was a competition for selecting the name. So the public selected the name through a poll. At that time, it was facilitated through the Nature Conservancy. And so they were working a lot to help it get set up. We had our board established in April. And then I came on in late August. And so I've been working to get the fund up and running to be able to be here now with a team and to share a bit about what we're doing. Right. So the Belize Fund for a Sustainable Future is actually a fund. A fund that's established, and it has a secure source of funding that's coming from conservation payments from the Blue Bond Agreement that government signed. That agreement they brokered with the Nature Conservancy for the whole debt relief.
Yeah.
So every year we're getting about $7.6 million through these conservation payments that's coming to the fund, and the fund will be managing that and investing it into programs. And this is going to be happening. These funds, dedicated funds, is for a period of 20 years, and then beyond that, the fund would be accessing resources that it has raised and generated over time.
So let me get something clear. The Belize Fund for a Sustainable Future, because I know that a part of the Blue Bond Agreement, that there's an aspect of it that speaks to investment into conservation efforts, correct? We're saying that the Belize Fund for a Sustainable Future is the organization or the body that will manage that fund invested into conservation, where the Blue Bond is concerned. So that, correct. All right, good. So now I have that understanding of it. Let's talk about some of the opportunities that the Belize Fund for a Sustainable Future will tap into when it comes to these available funds and conservation.
Right.
Okay, I'll invite Josue.
Thanks, Dr. Ricketts, and good morning,
Good morning
to everyone. And we're very happy and grateful to be here and for being invited as well to be on the show. The Belize Fund for a Sustainable Future, now that it has its grant process that is being developed, and this is where we're having the application process coming in. And this is the call that we're doing as well. We have two windows of opportunities whereby NGOs and even the government, but I like to focus more on the NGO side. With the funding opportunity is the grants award program, whereby we invite non-governmental organizations, civil society organization, even academia, and the private sector as well to, through this funding mechanism, be able to support their initiatives, support the activities that are related to coastal and marine resources, right? So that is the call that we're doing. And to have it know what we are able to fund, we have 4 strategic objectives whereby the projects have to align with. The 4 strategic objectives are: number 1, the protection of biodiversity, which speaks about our resources. The second one is the sustainable fisheries. The third one is climate resilience. and the fourth one is blue business innovation. So we have these different strategic objectives whereby the organizations that are applying can align whatever interventions or whatever strategic projects or activities that they have, and it's something that we would be able to assist and fund through, right?
Yeah,
So
so so when I hear sustainable fishing, I hear blue blue
Blue
economy,
business
blue
innovation,
business innovation, right? Well, just for those
right?
two, I know that there are private sector personnel entities involved when it comes to, for example, fishing, and when it comes to the blue economy. Are there grants for? Will there be grants available for these fishermen that want to expand their sustainable fishing practices, or for businesses involved in blue economy in terms of, let's say, for example, the lionfish jewelry, where they are also involved in sustainability efforts?
Actually, yes, they will. It's a great opportunity for them. Of course, they'd have to pass an eligibility criteria, or they'll have to go through an eligibility criteria, which is focused towards ensuring that they are operational for 1 year, that they meet the requirements of having a board in place or having the capacities to implement the project and the technical expertise as well to implement the project. So those are some minor eligibility criteria that we have. I believe there are more, and I'll ask Dr. Ricketts if she could assist as well with sharing some of those with us.
Yeah. Certainly, the fund wants to ensure that we're not just funding one sector of
Right.
the need.
Right.
Traditionally, a lot of funds, because of the capacity requirements, focused on like maybe bigger NGOs and so. We want to capture a range. The NGOs, the traditional NGOs can access, but we also want to ensure we can work with community-based organizations, associations, private sector groups like the fishing cooperatives and so forth, to help them be able to access the funding to develop sustainable projects, because they depend directly on our blue economy, so on our ocean resources. And those are the people we really want to target. So we will be working to help them build the capacity needed to implement projects, develop projects, because we really want the funds to have a lasting impact.
Indeed.
When we were talking about COP27 a few weeks ago, one of the lingering conversations was funding for climate change and disaster risk management. Now, when we're talking about the Belize Fund for a Sustainable Future, how is it related to that particular dialogue, and who are your stakeholders providing these funds?
In terms of climate impacts and issues, so that's one of our strategic objectives, looks at climate resilience, and it's all about how we can make ourselves more resilient to the impacts, not just at an ecosystem level, but as communities, as people depending on our coastal and marine resources. So that the projects that strategic objective will have projects focused around that, and we will encourage persons to apply. When it comes to the risk management, that's a slightly different and very specialized field. And I know that there are funds committed strictly for those, and the discussions that POP is looking at a particular framework or mechanism for that. Yeah. And I believe, POP is the conservation fund we have here.
Yes.
Are the ones that are managing that aspect. For now, BFSF is a new kid on the block, and we're really just trying to get our programs established and being able to get funds on the ground to support, like I said, especially the non-government side. But we also have a government strategic allocation program. So I would say 40% of our funds will be going to the NGO or non-government community. Let's not say NGO, non-government, because that includes academia, that includes private sector.
And then 60.
But then 40% goes to government strictly to support government's activities in meeting the conservation commitments under the Blue Fund.
So that's 80%, 40 and 40. I think that's what I heard. So
Right.
that's 20% remaining. Where does that go?
So a maximum of 20 is dedicated to the fund's operation and running
Okay.
because it does cost.
Yeah, of course.
To do training, build
Yeah.
capacity. So, but we have set a cap at 20%. We're working towards keeping it below because in keeping it low, we have more money to put into those.
So
Yes.
let's tell me a bit about the sustainability of the fund in terms of how do we ensure its sustainability.
Right.
Are we? Is it that with the 7.6 million that comes in annually, are we looking to disburse the entire sum annually to make room for the next amount? How are we seeking to ensure that we have funds throughout the years that this fund is established?
That's a good question. So in terms of how the fund is set up, like I mentioned, for 20 years, it's essentially a sinking fund. So we're government making these conservation payments, and these conservation payments are dispersed to the fund for 20 years. But there's also a approximately 23, I think, 0.5 million US that is invested in an endowment fund that is being managed for that 20 years. And when it's being managed in that way, it's growing, right? So an endowment, it sets there, investments will be made around it, whatever interest and earnings coming off that will be added to that 23.5, and it will grow the fund. So it's expected at the end of 20 years, it would have, I don't want the exact figures, that's projected, but it would have increased. And at the end of that 20 years, when the conservation payments end, the annual payments coming into the fund, that will then move to the fund to continue funding in the future. Added to that, the fund itself, as we establish programs, build capacity, we will also be fundraising and leveraging funding.
So that, just let me ask quickly, that endowment fund, that's not being managed by you guys, the Belize Fund first. Okay. All right.
So when it comes to, I know you're talking about eligibility and credibility and how you all will vet certain applications. And you said that you would have two opportunities to apply and perhaps seek funding. Do you have a set bar as to how much funds will be dispersed throughout the year, and what is the cycle for application?
Right. So to answer your question, we have several sizes of grants, and I would like to start with that. The first one being we have it's three, right? So the first one is small grants. It's grants that are up to 50,000 Belize dollars. That's the first one. The second one is a medium-sized grants, which are grants that are not more than 150,000 Belize dollars. And we have the large grants, which are over 150,000. Currently, we don't have a specific amount to say not to exceed, but definitely has to be within a 3-year time frame that the project be implemented, right? So we have these revolving funds coming in every year, and every year we'll be doing a call for proposals as well. Because we just established and have this organization operational this year, it became a bit difficult to open the call before, so we're doing it now in December. I know it's a busy period to be doing a call, right? But definitely next year we'll be having it around August, and sequentially as the years go by, we'll be doing it around the months of August.
And when it comes to the application so forth, what is it that you're looking for in terms of proposal strategy? Would it be an abstract first and objectives and so forth? What is it that the applicants need to have in order to be eligible and credible?
Right. Good question. I like that one. So basically, like I've already mentioned, they would have to pass an the eligibility criteria test, which definitely shows if the organization is able to receive funding, right? Once you have that, you align it with one of our strategic objectives. If your intervention or the activities that you want to implement are in line with our strategic objectives, then you can easily link it to that one. That's it. And then the third one, what we have open right now, and if you go to our website, which I'll be giving you in a few, or maybe you already have it, is that we have a template for the proposal, a proposal template, which you can use. It clearly identifies the areas that we're looking for, such as the goals, the outcomes of the projects, and the implementation time frame and the budget. Those are some of examples that you will find there. And to make it even more easier to understand, we have included descriptions and details to guide the organization or the applicant to fill it out easier and know what we're expecting from each section,
Does
right?
does the applicant need to apply for a particular cycle? So, for example, if you're providing a fund for, let's say, 150,000, will it be in the span of a year to 3 years? And do they have to provide a budget in terms of distribution? How does that work?
Right. So it depending on the size on the size of the grant, and in the proposal they would have to mention it and the amount of time and the time frame that they will be working on, and the amount of monies. Then later on we will be categorizing them, and through a screening process we will be looking at which proposals are more in line, and based on merit, then we will decide which projects will be forwarded to a technical committee that will be assisting with the review of these proposals as well.
So
Awesome.
I have one final question, and just to ask, perhaps, how do we seek to ensure that this fund is accessed by all those organizations in need of such grants, whether large, small NGOs, large, small private sector entities, through by providing the information that this fund actually exists, that these opportunities are actually out there, because we don't necessarily have a 100% online access, for example, to in some certain communities that may want to take advantage of this opportunity. So perhaps I'm asking if there is an information or education campaign out there, if there will be offices set up at various locations across the country where various communities can know that in fact this opportunity does
Exists,
exist.
yeah.
So that's a good question, and thanks for that. And so you're working on various strategies in sharing this information. You know, one of them is through these means where
Yeah.
we know a lot of what the money shows. We also have for there's places that provide radio airing, you know, plays on radio at the same time, but there's social media. We know a lot of people, even in remote places, once they have that
True.
access, they have their phone, there's social media. And so we're posting all this information on social media also. And we're putting ads in the newspaper. So we're using some of the traditional means. So we have, I believe, in the Mandela and the Guardian, we have
Perfect.
ads advertising the calls for proposals. And we also, you know, reach out. We're doing a one-on-one contacting of who we know are potential stakeholders that we're inviting to an information session. A virtual one, because, you know, we're seeing a flare up of COVID again, and we always have to be mindful of that. But we also are collecting contacts and expressions of interest from people that are emailing into us, and our staff, Josue and Steve, will be reaching out to them to get information. And we know we won't reach everybody in this first call, but like I said, every year there's the call, and it will be publicized in as much as possible to be able to get
Perfect.
opportunities.
And
And I just
Yes,
want to reinforce so that it is a competitive process, because there's a limited amount of funds. You know, 7.6 million can only stretch a certain way. And so we encourage everybody interested and able to meet the criteria to apply, and so that we can look at you know, projects that really stand out or will really have significant impact for us to be able to invest in.
And finally, for me, there was a mention about a website.
Yes, yes, and definitely just tagging along on what Dr. Ricketts says, and that's why we're here with Channel 5, to bring out this application and this opportunity, sorry. And definitely we will be doing outreach to several to our coastal and marine areas to see if we can engage other stakeholders that are not familiar or do not have access to internet or can have not seen this. But yes, you can find more information about BFSF, the Belize Fund for a Sustainable Future. Let me see if I have it here.
Yes,
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 we
it
have
Right? So
it.
right. So it's www.bfsf.bz. In there, you can find more information about our strategic objectives, about who we are, the application process, and the proposal templates which you are required to fill out.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. F.
Correct.
BFSF.org.
All right, perfect.
At BZ.
That
BZ.
that BZ.
Yes, don't get it wrong, please.
Oh, we have to type it out one more time. But Dr. Cho-Ricketts, Mr. Olivas, thank you so much for coming in. We can't wait to see the fruits of this labor
Indeed.
come to fruition. I suspect that there will be a lot of applicants, and I do not want to be you on the other side that has to vet those persons. So best of luck, and please do come back for when the call for applications are done and when you actually disperse the funds. I'll be really, really excited to hear all about it.
Sure, we definitely will. And, thank you for having us. And yeah, we will have a busy Christmas and New Year season. We're excited about that.
Perfect.
Season's greetings to you both. And with that, we are going to take our final break and we'll be back for wrap up. Stay tuned.